We are in your presence. Fill us with your power. Live inside of me. Welcome, Holy Spirit. We are in your presence. Fill us with your power. Live inside of me. You're the living water, never drying fountain, comforter and counselor. Take complete control. Welcome, Holy Spirit. We are in your presence. Fill us with your power. Live inside of me. Welcome, Holy Spirit. We are in your presence. Fill us with your power. Live inside of me. Welcome, Holy Spirit. We are in your presence. Fill us with your power. Live inside of me. You're the living water, never drying fountain, comforter and counselor. Take complete control. Welcome, Holy Spirit. We are in your presence. Fill us with your power. Live inside of me. Fill us with your power. Live inside of me.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Do we? That one? All right. Thank you. And we've welcomed the Holy Spirit, and we welcome the Holy Spirit in each of you. Is there anybody who's here for the first time? If you'd like to raise your hand so that we can acknowledge you in a little while. Welcome. Glad you're here. All right. We'd also like to welcome those people who are joining us on Spectrum TV Access 21 on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. You're welcome to come down to 401 East Arrowwood Road Sunday mornings at 10:30 and be part of the live event. All right. So now that everybody's here, wide awake and ready, we'll have Lawrence talk to us about the core values and our vision and mission statement.
Good morning. We're going to focus on something that you do all day long. You set your intentions all day long. And your intentions are about the choices you make for your next future. So if you intend to have water, you intend to have it in the future, and you step into that future. Some time ago, this congregation got together in a spiritual setting that was energized by the Spirit. And we set our intentions. And on Sunday mornings when we gather, we acknowledge those sacred intentions, our vision and our mission. And we unite our hearts and our minds in the intention to experience vision and mission. United in our deep intentions, centered in love. We know that humanity awakens to its divinity, embodying and celebrating diversity and harmony, while nurturing the earth and all life. Let's say that together. Centered in love, humanity awakens to its divinity, embodying and celebrating diversity and harmony, while nurturing the earth and all life. And as a congregation, we know who we are today, for we have already stepped into our mission. We are experiencing it this moment, and so together we state the mission. We are a welcoming, inclusive, and diverse community which empowers and supports people to transform our lives and this planet through teaching and sharing unity principles. Daily, as we engage in our spiritual practices, we personally experience spiritual growth. And we are so grateful that these spiritual practices are taught right here: prayer, meditation, and gratitude. We are steeped in our love of God and our unity with God. We so often are filled with joy, which we express as best we can, because this community is walking in faith, believing and knowing that we are fulfilling vision and mission right here, right now. And so it is.
Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Hashem or Heaven's door. It's the heart, it's your mind, it's your soul, or it's a sign. It's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth, Lord, Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's a one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. Oh, the power of the love in you and me.
All right. So, all right. As most of you know, I'm not Lana Moorhead. So, but I will be doing the daily word for her today, and she will be available after the service to pray with anybody who needs prayers. She'll be in the prayer room across the way. If you don't want to talk with a prayer chaplain about what you'd like to share, then we have a prayer box. You can write it down, leave your name if you wish. We'll pray with it here for 2 weeks, and then we'll send it on to Silent Unity, and they will pray over the request for an additional 30 days. So today's daily word is free. I am free, I am unlimited. The lyrics to the hymn, I am free, I am unlimited, are regularly sung in spiritual centers of many faiths and denominations. They resonate on a universal level because they express an important truth in simple words, a proclamation of spiritual freedom. I may encounter daily challenges with my work, my relationships, finances, or any number of other elements of this human experience. My ego may immediately believe me to be trapped, forced into painful choices shaped by the demands of others. I remember that I am infinite potential. I am always free. At such times, I hear my true self gently singing me the truth. I am free, I am unlimited. There are no ties that bind me. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. 2 Corinthians 3, verse 17. So that's our daily word for today. Now switching hats once again, I have the opportunity to introduce today's speaker, to reintroduce today's speaker. She's been with us before, Reverend Grace Carcich is an ordained interfaith minister who specializes in pastoral counseling, officiating weddings, public speaking, and she's also a certified life coach. She's informative, has a very unusual sense of humor. It says wicked in the... It said wicked in the notes, but I wasn't going to go there. Okay. Her blend of insight, storytelling, humor, and music combine to produce an inspiring learning experience. She manages the Counseling Center downtown Asheville and is co-founder of Unity Radiant Light in Providence, Rhode Island. So, right now I'd like to introduce Reverend Grace, and she will be doing today's meditation.
Good morning, everyone. So as we get ready for this time of meditation, may I just ask that you please remove everything from your laps and sit with your feet firmly planted on the floor so that we can ground. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes and just take a deep cleansing breath. We are here to celebrate the goodness in our lives. Sense your aliveness. And if you have been feeling down about anything, now is the time to let it go. Just let it go. This is a special moment in your life. Today is a new opening for you, a new beginning. There is only now. And as you breathe in the wonder of your aliveness, sense the greater whole of which you are a part. Perhaps you can discover this greater wholeness by letting your mind wander among all the vast forms of life around you now. The changing of the trees, the smell of freshly cut grass, the flowers, the birds, our wonderful season of fall that is now upon us. And we marvel at the mosaic of the colors in our majestic trees. Truly, we live in an amazing world, full of living things, abounding everywhere, and ever-changing. It is so very beautiful there. Life is limitless being. We are free, unlimited. You, as a living, breathing being, are a complete manifestation of this principle of being, of eternal spirit. You are always changing, evolving, growing, and becoming more and more. See yourself expanding spiritually. See yourself as limitless. I know and affirm your mind receives divine ideas and dreams and visions that reflect the character of consciousness. Sitting in the quiet of our thoughts now, we are open to receive divine revelations as we now go into the silence. As we return from the silence, we know that we have awakened to the now moment. We know our true essence and our true nature, which is all of life. And in the midst of our knowingness, with our power of imagination fixed on the Spirit, we affirm in the confidence of Spirit, I see myself as God sees me, perfect and in his likeness. And so it is. Amen. So if you all come back now, welcome again. Good morning. It's such a pleasure to be back. Thank you, Michael, for the wonderful introduction and for pronouncing my name correctly. Thank you, Alan, for inviting me back, and board. I appreciate you and appreciate all of the congregants here at Unity of Charlotte. I think you're very special, which is why I wanted to come back and be with you again. And I wanted to open up today's talk with a quote from Howard Thurman. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and go do that. What the world needs is more people that have come alive. And I thought that was very appropriate to what we're going to be discussing today, which is trusting the stirrings of your soul. Part 1. Now, the reason it's a part 1 is because I got so full of the Holy Spirit when I was writing it that it got really, really long, and we had to break it into 2 parts. So I'll be coming back on November 12th, and we'll finish up the talk then. So, like I said, our talk today is about stirrings, messages, and impulses, and being open to receive. And it's funny, when I originally chose that quote, I specifically chose it because I wanted people to be open and come from the heart and come from their most authentic self, which is what I felt the Howard Thurman quote represented. And since then, I mean, Lord knows we've been through a lot since the last time I was here, right? Woohoo! Not all good stuff, too. And I noticed there's a lot of stress in the world, and there's a lot of tension. So being that things out there are a little loopy right now, I figured I might just try to make it a little softer with a little humor. So I brought a poem, and I want to bless you with a light verse to ease our burdens, because I think we could all enjoy a little mirth. So I've chosen a poem from Hafiz, and it's from I Heard God Laughing, which really does show that God does have a sense of humor, in case you were doubting it. And this is called Several Times in the Last Week. Ever since happiness heard your name, it has been running through the streets trying to find you. And several times in the last week, God himself has even come to my door asking me for your address. Once I said, God, I thought you knew everything. Why are you asking me where your lovers live? And the beloved replied, Indeed, Hafiz, I do know everything. But it is fun playing dumb once in a while. And I love that intimate chat and the warmth of your heart's fire. Maybe we should make this poem into a song. I think it has potential. How does this refrain sound? For I know it is a truth. Ever since happiness heard your name, it has been running through the streets, trying to find you. And several times in the last week, God himself has come to my door so sweetly, asking for your address, wanting the beautiful warmth of your heart's fire. I love Hafiz. And I always smile when I hear that poem, and I love to share it with folks if you haven't heard it before. Again, it comes from the book I Heard God Laughing. And I just felt like we needed to have that moment of levity because life around us is moving very quickly. Ever feel like that? And sometimes as a result of that, we can no longer trust our intellect, or what I feel, in my opinion, is the intellect, which is why we have to be open to our feelings. And feelings can be difficult for people. I remember when I was part of the Unity Worcester Church, I had a really good friend there, and she told me, I love Unity. I've been in Unity for 50 years. I won't go to any other church. She goes, but I really have trouble with my feelings. So, of course, you know me with my wicked sense of humor. You know what? I used to come up behind her all the time and go, feelings, nothing more than feelings. But she laughed because she knew I was doing it with love. And eventually she came to be able to share a little bit more of her feelings, which is a good thing. So we have a lot of details, a lot of data. We're a data-driven society, metrics and data, right? And sometimes too much energy gets expended maybe in the wrong place. And sometimes it's hard to stop and listen and get clarity or hear our messages. The messages would stir our souls to fruition. So let me ask you, and just think about this as a group. How do you feel the presence of God in your life? So think about that for a moment. And look at it from the perspective of, if we didn't have our intellect to fall back on, how would we receive our messages? How would we have a divine revelation of truth come to us? Any ideas? Show of hands. Tom? Nature. Good example. Anyone else? Children. Okay. Anyone else? What other mechanism might we look at divine revelations as coming to us as in a format? Intuition. Thank you. Very good. Yes. In dreams. Excellent. Love it. Okay. So we have nature, children, intuition, and dreams.
Pets.
And pets. Very good. Yes, I love my puppy. All right. Anybody else?
Love.
In love. Yes, the demonstration of love, giving and receiving love, because it's a two-way street. Yes. Okay. In church, yes. Okay, so we have some fantastic suggestions. They're all correct. Everybody gets 100%? Okay. So they're all great answers, and I actually want to focus on intuition, and we can talk about that in a second, so I'm just going to say, stick a pin in that. We'll be right back to it. You know me, I like to skip around, but we will get back to it. And before I go any further, I just want to make one disclaimer. We are going to be talking about releasing impulses and following dreams and looking at intuition, but I also want to just make one mention in a serious and sober moment to just talk about, if you're someone who's conflicted and maybe getting negative impulses or negative emotions, and you feel that there's something that you might do to hurt yourself or others, please speak to someone about it. We have chaplains on site here. Unity has a 1-800 number, and I know that we can direct you into the right arena for your needs, because we all have a shadow side. And that's the other side of being very spiritual and very devout and very divine. We all have a shadow side, and sometimes people do tend to act on it. So I just want to put that out there before we continue with how to pursue your impulses on a positive venture. So the first thing I want to suggest is, let's go on a little journey together. You know, I like to give out tools, and they get connected like little dots. So the first thing I want to talk about is having awareness. Are you aware of God's presence? It sounds simple enough, right? And that is the first step. Because before we become awake, there were experiences that we had, and they may be cumulative from a prior evolution or a series of evolutions that we had before we came here. There's also current incubation, what happened when we agreed via contract with spirit to come back and do it again. And sometimes some of us, I guess, are thumping ourselves in the head. You mean I agreed to come back and do this? What was I thinking about? I don't know. But we did. So we're here. So let's make the best of it, right? So we know we have been spoken to about a power that's greater than this physical realm. And that's important to realize, because I'm sure science would debate you on that, but we know as lunatics that there is such a thing as a power greater than this physical realm. Awareness and awakeness is what I want you to think about. And I don't know if awakeness is a word or not, but it is a word today. I just made it up. Okay. And that's the first step to knowing our purpose is to being alive, awake, and affirm. I like to affirm that I want to be closer to God. Kind of freaks people out when I say that sometimes. I was at a wedding 2 weeks ago and I said it to one of the guests and they just kind of said, okay, I need another drink. It's okay. I know not everybody's on the path. It's okay. I'm not offended. So calling it in, even if you don't have it, act as if you do. Having that awareness is really important. The next thing is knowing purpose. We did talk about that. When I was here in August, we discussed surrender through and through. And you may remember, and I'll ask you, who does remember, when we discussed that we have a purpose at our core. Does anybody remember what we said that purpose was? Okay, I know August was a long time ago. God expressing through us. So, as you know, we are all one power, right? As Daniel and Nahmod sang. And while I know we're not going to be able to figure out today what our individual purposes are, okay? It kind of goes back to the Howard Thurman quote, which I shared with you earlier. What makes you come awake and alive? And I know that there's some of us that don't know what we want to be when we grow up still. Yeah, that's okay. It's totally understandable because we as humans, we get distracted. It's a complex life. So how do we handle this? We refocus, and we do that by invoking concentration. So, 2 tools, refocus and concentration. And I had actually taught that as part of the lesson in surrender. Do you remember? I said stop, breathe, smile, and release anything that is unlike God. And by doing that, you will actually refocus, put your attention on something more positive, or at least get away from the annoying person that's bugging you. But when you put those two together, the refocus and the concentration, if you add onto that mix a positive affirmation, I guarantee you, you will have a positive result and probably experience a shift. And as Michael had mentioned, I am a certified life coach in addition to being an ordained reverend. And I actually use affirmations. Back in New England, they used to call me the affirmation queen because I could come up with an affirmation for anybody, anytime. And I like to use it with my clients because I see quick results and really good shifts. So I would ask you now, if you're willing, together with me, would you like to try a few affirmations? Cool beans. All right. So the first one, I'll say it and then we'll say it together. The first one is, I focus my attention on God and good manifests in my life. Together, I focus my attention on God and good manifests in my life. Excellent. The second one. I release the need to know as I trust in God. Together, I release the need to know as I trust in God. Good, you guys are really on the ball. Woohoo! Sometimes you got to do this 2 and 3 times. All righty. I have a church, the Unity Church in Tennessee. She makes us sing it 3 and 4 times. It's like feeling like I'm in school. Okay. The divine dwelling place in me holds beauty, wisdom, and peace. I'll say that again. The divine dwelling place in me holds beauty, wisdom, and peace. Together. The divine dwelling place in me holds beauty, wisdom, and peace. You guys are awesome. Woohoo! All right, so now I'll get back to intuition. So, while it's true, we don't always know, and that's okay because we just released it. We just said we don't need to know, so we're good. We do have feelings. We have stirrings in our soul. So what do we make of these stirrings, and where do they come from? But the real question is, can they be trusted? So I want to share a word with you that I learned recently. It's called concatenation. I'll say it again, concatenation. It's $1 million word. You can use it at your fellowship and your cocktail parties and really impress people. Oh God, it's a big word. Okay. So what does it mean? Concatenation. Con from the Latin means with, catena means chain, with a chain of events. Concatenation. and it describes how things seem to flow. And you may have experienced this yourself. So I want to share an experience with you that happened shortly after I was here in August. And this was my story about concatenation. I was out on the road doing a series of business appointments, and that morning I didn't think too much about what I was going to wear, or anything like that. But I chose to wear this necklace, and I'll just show it to you. If you can't see it, I'll show it to you later. It is a silver tree of life with some green peridot crystals on it. Just put it on very random. Hadn't had it on in maybe a year or two. Didn't think much about it. While I was on the road, my cell phone rang, and I got a very disturbing call, very painful call from a family member who told me that another family member had gotten suddenly very sick and was probably terminal, and nobody had expected that. And I was getting ready for the next meeting, and I said, you better eat something even though you're not in the mood for it. Go grab a salad. So I did, ran into the grocery store, got myself a little salad. And I was online waiting to check out to pay for it when the cashier admired my necklace. And she said to me, "What is that?" And I said, "It's the tree of life." And she then asked me, "Is that the tree of life from Jesus?" Okay, hit the pause button. I had to stop. I stood there. I'm in deep emotional pain. My head is reeling. I'm not really in the mood for conversation. And why are we here talking about Jesus? I just want to pay for my salad. And I was like, wow, Grace, are you ever blocked? Wow, time to stop, breathe, smile, and release your blockage. Woo, I said, this woman has a message for you. So now that I was opened up again, I looked at her and I said, you know what? I've never heard it specifically referred to as that. Can you please share with me what that means? My heart was open. And she responded, she said, well, when my mom got sick last year, and then she really was very sick, she would always tell me to reflect on the tree of life and know that peace be still. And then some months later, she passed away from her dialysis treatments. And since then, she said to me, I've been thinking about getting a tree of life tattoo in her memory. And then I responded, I said, wow, that's kind of crazy because I have a tree of life tattoo. And I said, that would be a really beautiful testament to your mom and her memory. And she said, yeah. And she smiled, and I smiled. And then I thanked her because a rush of peace came over me. And I really felt the peace. I had a major shift at that moment. And I went to my car, and I want to tell you, a stream of tears came rushing down my face. And as I was sitting there crying, I reached into my purse to get a tissue, and what I found was this instead. And this is a coin that I had received at the Unity of Worcester. It was a gift that someone had given me. And on the coin, it says, peace be still. And I remembered, too, that my little tree, my little tattoo tree, as it's designed, is set on an angle. And the reason I bring that up is because lots of times when I see people have them, they're very kind of straight up and down, very rigid. But the beauty of the tree being set on an angle is to show that you can be grounded, but you can be flexible and open to flow and open to change when necessary. Jesus said, the lilies in the field, they do not spin, they do not toil. Do not worry, be in the flow. And I realized that I had indeed been given quite a few messages this morning. My heart was closed, but I managed to open it. And when I opened it to hear her story and to hold space for her and listen to her pain and listen about how her mother had suffered and she lost her mom, I then received a message which stirred my soul completely. My messages came like rapid fire. It was just to be open, to surrender, to let God, to let be in the will of God, to accept what is. Peace, be still. And this cashier doesn't even know what a gift she was to me that day. And it doesn't matter what we do for a living, cashier, whatever, what you do now, what you have done, what I do, it doesn't matter. We can all be a blessing to the world. And I'm so very grateful for that. So I have one more short story I want to tell you, and this is a little romantic. It's very sweet. It's very short. I found this delightful couple that I worked with last month. I actually married them, and I wanted to tell you about how they met, because I found this very interesting too. We're talking about intuition, impulses, stirrings, and I think this illustrates it really good. Let's call them Harry and Sally. I'm changing their names to protect the innocent. It's a happy story. So, there's a lot of stirring going on here. As it was, Harry lived in Michigan and flew into New Orleans to celebrate his uncle's 60th birthday party, over at the Salty Tavern in New Orleans. At the same time, Sally flew in from California to go celebrate her uncle's 60th birthday party, also at the Salty Tavern in New Orleans. Now, mind you, this is random. 2 different uncles, 2 different families. One family sits on one side of the restaurant, the other one's at the far side. They never see each other, and they never talk to each other. So, at the end of Sally's meal, the aunt of Harry, hope you're following me, comes over to her and says to her, "Hey, I have something for you." She goes, "I'm going to pass you this note. I've written on the menu. This is my nephew, Harry. This is his cell phone number. I think you guys would be a great couple. I really need you to call him later." And she hands her the menu, and she walks away giggling. Now realize at any time in this story, fate could have stepped in and just changed everything, right? Free will, which we all have, we talked about that last time, could have definitely changed everything. Sally could have said, "Menu schmenu. I'm not calling this guy. Forgot about it." But she did. And later that night, Sally rang up Harry, and she told him that she got his number from the aunt. And they got to chatting, and they had a great conversation. It was fabulous. And again, Harry could have entertained that one call and said, "Hey, it's been really nice chatting. Hope you enjoyed the rest of your time in New Orleans later." But that's not what happened. They made plans to meet the next day. And they agreed to keep in touch long distance, which wasn't easy. She was in California, he was in Michigan. And then they decided that they were in a relationship, so they decided to do the relationship long distance thing. And as fate would have it, soon they decided they wanted to live in North Carolina together, and Harry soon proposed. And the rest is history, because I married them 2 weeks ago. And they are the cutest couple. But what made the aunt do that? We may never know. Life is really funny like that. You just never know. And sometimes you just have to be open to the stirrings that come your way. And on that note, I do want to tell you that I will be back on November 12th with part 2. There will be a quiz when I come back, so I hope you've retained all the information from today. I'm going to be discussing alignment with God and your true calling. Some serious stuff, so be here, okay? And some other juicy topics that I might throw in, because I'm a wicked, but in a good way. So I want to wish you a beautiful month ahead. I look forward to returning. Your choir has been fabulous to learn all the songs that I gave them, and they're going to bless you in a little while with a song called Blessing to the World. And before I leave, I want to give you a quote from Isaiah chapter 30, verse 21, that goes like this. And when you turn to the right or you turn to the left, your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, "This is the way. Walk in it." Thank you so much. Namaste.
You are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. We are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of spirit on earth, and who I am and all I do is a blessing to the world. I am the hands, I am the voice of spirit on earth, and who I am and all I do is a blessing to the world. I'm a blessing to the world. I'm a blessing to the world.
Had a funny feeling deep inside. Tried to remember. Images floated through my head of a world without judgment, where acceptance ruled instead.
I had a dream.
We were all free from fear.
I had a dream.
Angels' voices I could hear.
I had a dream.
In the sky I saw white clouds.
I
God's love.
I had a dream.
Of a world free of
I had
violence,
a dream.
where we all made a
I
difference.
had a dream.
When enough was
I
enough,
had a dream.
we were free to marry the one that we loved.
I had a dream.
As the images washed over me, they bathed me in their glow. Tried to truly understand, but only God could really know. Oh, I held my head in my hands. Lord, I fell down on my knees. I pray, God, let there be work this week. Let it begin with me.
I had a dream.
Every hungry child was fed.
I had a dream.
Leaders did what they said.
I had a dream.
There was only peace on this
I
earth.
had a dream.
All of God's children reveled in this free bird. We all reach for the
I
stars.
had a dream.
Our goals and dreams didn't seem quite that far.
I had a dream.
Hope showed that they truly cared.
I had a dream.
Everything was equally shared.
I had a dream.
I had a dream that seemed so real to me. How could it be? I had a dream I would make it come true. If I could, I would. Drug-free streets where kids could play. Each of us free to live our lives our own way. Blacks and whites walked hand in hand. And Christians, Jews, and Muslims shared the same homeland. Women with child could make their own choices. All of God's people singing and rejoicing. Of a world free of hate. God, I hope it's my God, I hope it's not just a dream.
Now there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Now there is peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, united all are we. Now we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Peace has begun with me, and this is the moment now. With every step I take, now this is my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Now there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. And now our prayer for protection in a call and response format. The light of God surrounds us. We are the light. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love. The power of God protects us. We are the power. The presence of God watches over us. We are the presence. Wherever we are, God is good, and we are richly blessed. So go out and be the love in the world today.